Like, you actually have to be kidding me. Like, please tell me that I'm just having a nightmare and I need to wake up. The problem is, the nightmare is a reality. We're awake. We're more awake than ever, Mets fans. What we're awake to see is the Mets stepping right up, having a 5-run lead. And I apologize, guys, as you first chime in live on a replay. I'm going to be very animated. I'm going to be very loud. There might be some profanity here for our Mets post-game shows after every single game throughout the 162 in postseason, presented by Mumu as well as SeatGeek, our amazing sponsors. I apologize if you're a first-time watcher here. Usually I'm far more content and composed in what I have to say, but as the Mets not only dropped now 11 of their past 12 effing games, and to do that headline in a ball game where you had a 5-run lead in Milwaukee, a 5-run lead, and what was the common consensus among every single Mets fan heading into this? Even with the 5-run lead, can they hold it? Can they keep it together? I'm not feeling overly confident that they can, but can they actually go ahead and do it? That's why there's not a single Mets fan on the planet right now watching live or on replay that was surprised to see the Mets blow a 5-run lead. The Mets, in what has been a horrendous stretch of baseball, basically having lost 2 straight weeks of baseball, mind you. They're 5.5 games out now of the Philadelphia Phillies. They're 1.5 games up on the Reds for the final wildcard spot. This is absolutely terrible, guys. You get offense finally in a day where you're not going to criticize everybody, that being an Eric Chavez down. You get the bombs, you get the bloops, you get the early hits where runners in scoring position, and it does not matter. Shamania can't go beyond 4 effing innings because, God forbid, if someone not named David Pearson actually provided this little thing we call length for this Mets rotation. The Mets now have the longest standing record of 50-plus games without a starter outside of Pearson to give you more than 4.2, going all the way back to 1901. That is how bad it is. So on the same day that you finally get hitting with runners in scoring position is the same day that the Mets go ahead and cough it up in the most dramatic fashion possible. The Brewers, with the best record in baseball, the best team batting average with runners in scoring position, they looked at that 5-run deficit and said, we're just getting started. They nipped away, they chipped away, and they did exactly what they needed to do. And then with Diaz, who has not pitched an effing ball game for the Mets in literally a week, going back to this past Monday, comes in, allows a tied ball game, and that really isn't as much on Edwin's fault there in the ninth. It's not his fault that Ryan Helsley couldn't get out of his own mess for a second consecutive day to a degree. Then you add in Edwin Diaz in the ninth, meatball, sayonara, see ya, it's out of here. Right as you would hear on the broadcast, and I think it was from Keith or Ron saying that, oh, this game is going to extras. Why do we have to continue to jinx it? Why do we continue to make these comments as if we haven't seen this godforsaken team go out, roll over, and die, and find new ways to lose on an every single day basis? This is... oh my God. Yoshim with the fight. I hope Steve Cohen is ready for Citi Field to be empty on Tuesday and the rest of the season. How can you want to attend Citi Field right now? I'm not going out my way to attend a ball game in the near future, nor should you. Don't spend your hard-earned dollars on a ball club that's going to roll over and die the way that they are doing now with 40 or so games left this season. We are watching in real time a collapse as good as any, and yes, there is still potential to get out of this, but the Mets have lost basically 6 effing games in the standings over the past week alone. Flack, it's 07 all over again. Oh my God. And I didn't really experience 07 at its peak because I was only 7 years of age. This is my nightmare. This is my reality. Scott with the $10 haul. You can't blame the bullpen. 1901 since the team didn't have 2 starters. I know, but listen, the bullpen still needs to provide something. I get it, the Brewers are really good, but Ryan Helsley needs to be better there. You can rightfully say that. Helsley's not the sole reason why the Mets lost this one, nor is it Edwin Diaz. It falls on the collective effort by this club that finds new ways to lose on an every single game basis. Thank you so much for that donation. I appreciate that. We got our guys in here. We got our guy Garen, great member of 4 months. Happy to have you in here, guys. If you guys have a donation, please know if I do not get to it right away, it's not purposeful. It's just because I'm rapid fire right now. I'm effing fuming. I have such a long day ahead, but I have to break down this shit show you call a ball game as the Mets have not only dropped 11 other past effing 12 games, but they do it in the most dramatic way possible. You know how the Mets found themselves rallying back from 5 runs down over the past 2 weeks, yet they still lost here that we saw in extra innings? That felt not nearly as bad as this kind of loss. You had a 5-run lead in the first half of this effing ball game, and you just squander it because you get no length from your rotation. Your hitting doesn't do jack. In case you guys are wondering, what did the Mets do offensively after the 5th inning? Yeah, get ready for this. Nothing. As soon as we see adversity, this team rolls over and dies. And I understand they did get a nice little insurance initially that made it 6-3 thanks to Alonso opposite field dunker there that just stayed fair, that initially made it 6-3 after the Brewers found themselves in this ball game only down by 2. But guys, there are so many aspects of this story that just has you not only wanting to pull your hair out, pull your teeth out, however you're going to react as a Mets fan, but they continue to find new and more impressive ways to lose. You know it's terrible when there is not a single Mets fan on the planet that sat there with full comfort saying, we're up by 5, we're going to close it out and win this ball game. On the same day that Edwin Diaz is fully healthy, clearly rusty to a degree because he hasn't pitched on Monday. Not Buddy's fault that the offense hasn't showed up over the past effing week or hasn't, I can't even talk right now, hasn't found themselves in the win column. Yet again, they continue to find new, impressive, and absolutely heart-wrenching ways to drop games on a nightly basis. How we doing, everybody? Even though I know the answer to that if you're a Mets fan, because you're not doing good. Maybe you're not as irrational, maybe you're not as hot-headed, and maybe you're not as much of a schmuck like myself as I break down this ball game. But I can't hold back my emotions, and I certainly can't hold them back when this is a team that not only was 21 games above 500 this year, now they're just 8 games above 500. But the greater story, the Phillies are absolutely reeling. We saw Harrison Bader just robbed a home run there for the Phillies as he took down the Texas Rangers yet again. And the Rangers, thanks for nothing to DeGrom yesterday, you absolute schmuck. The Mets are getting no help whatsoever. And this is what happens when you decide until it's too little too late to do some type of organizational change. What have we been calling out for the past how many days, how many weeks, how many months to a degree? It's some type of change. The Mets did certain moves at the deadline. They bolstered the bullpen. They brought in Mullins, who had himself his first home run as a Met today. For those that don't know, Mullins has 15 home runs this year. They were all pulled. His first home run as a Met was opposite field. I thought that was interesting. Outside that, though, everybody, Brett Beatty hits a bomb because you know the pressure's on. We want Beatty sent down, so he has to give you your regularly scheduled home run for the first time in what feels like at least a month and a half, and probably won't do one again for another month and a half. Ronnie Mauricio with a couple base knocks that we're happy to get into that will break down this ball game, but there's nothing to be happy about as a Mets fan right now. We're at a point where not only are we at a loss for words, but how much can a current change actually change this team? Even if you go ahead and make a statement and say, all right, let's kick the curb one of Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes. It would be hilarious doing that after the Mets put up 6 runs in a ball game. It's almost like you should have did it how many weeks ago when they have continued to be a bottom feeder offensively? But let's just say, okay, you go ahead and you make that statement. Just how much of a needle mover is it actually going to be if the rotation can get its head out of its own ass, if the bullpen is not performing to the caliber that you're hoping it would, and there's zero margin for error? Every single time the Mets find themselves with a lead, they're far more concerned not just on containing that lead, but making sure that they don't blow it. Tell me that this offense did not look like a club that was doing their absolute best just to try to stay in this ball game when we got beyond the 5th inning. And the answer to that is we all saw in real time in offense yet again that when they start to have the pressure, when you start to feel the heat, which is the Brewers starting to heat up later on this ball game, there is nothing to be seen by this ball club. Halo with a $2 haul. Go Phillies. See you on the 25th. Appreciate the donation. F the Phillies. Absolutely F the Phillies. But I appreciate the money from a Phillies fan. Thank you. Brendan with a $5 haul. I'm getting a tattoo right now, and this loss hurts a lot more. Yeah, listen, I would gladly take getting a tattoo right now because I would actually probably appreciate that pain as much of a sicko that I am, because it would keep me distracted from having to think about this godforsaken team, let alone cover them on a daily basis. I was literally just texting my guys, Giraffe Neck Mark and Mike from Stark Raving Sports on our Mets group chat right before we went live here, because we just react in real time when things are going really bad. And I said, you guys have it easy. Even when you guys cover the Mets, you're not covering them on a daily basis. Today, and what has been the past 2+ weeks now in pretty much a row, has been nightly coverage of horrendous Mets baseball, finding new ways to lose. And in every which way, shape, or fashion, every single time, and I've been repeating this for in a calendar effing week, yet here we are again. Every single time that you think that the Mets cannot one-up themselves to play worse baseball than what they previously have, to lose ball games in dramatic fashion. What do? They step right up and continue to prove us wrong. Ian, thank you so much for the membership. To Joe in the chat, I really do appreciate that. You think Cohen will fire Stearns, Wardy? No, I don't think that, but it's interesting that you bring up Cohen, because I understand Steve has a lot going on, usually with his day-by-day. He's got a lot of things going on for the multi-billion-dollar man. But it is interesting that throughout this entire stretch, throughout a 2-month stretch in which the Mets have had the third-to-last record in baseball, only trailing the Washington Nationals and the Colorado Rockies, that Steve Cohen's nowhere to be seen, right? That when the Mets actually have their worst stretch of the season, Steve in the first half is going out of his way to tweet, things are going to be okay, we're looking good, vibes are high. See why I get so concerned so early? I am firmly under the belief that Steve Cohen is as jaw-dropped and as taken back as we all are right now. That is honestly why I think, to a degree, why the man is not going to have his way to post something on X. Because usually he does. If he's not going to have his way to make a comment, you know it's bad. You absolutely know it's bad. And I hope that Cohen is freaking beating on the drum of David Stearns' door, or giving him a call right now as they're getting set to fly back there to get set for their Atlanta Braves series on Tuesday, in which the Braves have been winning as of late, but they're, 16 games below 500? How is it that as a Mets team, 8 games above 500, I have zero, nada when it comes to confidence in this club going out and actually besting those Atlanta Braves? The Braves are going to curb stomp us. Why wouldn't they, with the way that this Mets team continues to find ways to lose? It is so disheartening as a fan. And going back to my Steve Cohen comment, you really do have to wonder, if you are Steve Cohen, don't you think you have to make some type of organizational change just for the sake of making it, regardless of what the offense did or didn't do today? We have how much of a track record to suggest that both Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes should not be here? We have more than enough of a track record in that regard. Yeah, here we are. It's August 10th. The Mets lose a ball game that they had a 5-run lead on, and were able to do nothing to pounce and add some key insurance when they needed to after the Brewers started to get their bats to pick up. This was not only another absolutely voodoo series in Milwaukee that I continue to tell each and every one of you. Not only have the Mets been playing horrendous baseball, but the Mets were were so doomed heading into this series from the start. It's twofold. One, the Brewers are the best team in baseball right now. There's no team hotter than the Brewers. There's no team that's more clutch in baseball with runners in scoring position than the Milwaukee Brewers. That is a statistical fact, so miss me with the nonsense to suggest otherwise. Secondly, what is the worst stretch of baseball the Mets have had in a road stadium out of all stadiums, out of all 30 in the game today over the past 5 to 10 years? It is there in Milwaukee against the Brewers. We saw this shit last year. We saw it a couple years ago. Every single time this team is in Milwaukee in the regular season, we know they're not going to win the series. And if they do, then tip the cap to them, because it's so few and far in between. I think the Mets actually won a series against the Brewers in Milwaukee last year towards the end of the season, but that was right before the wild card there, or maybe they lost. Either way, it's been a shit show in Milwaukee. It's been absolutely horrendous, let alone talking, watching, covering this ball club. Yeah, we have 1,000 concurrent viewers in the live chat right now. Hang that like and subscribe button for your guy Wardy, which I appreciate so much, because we're all equally frustrated. We have been calling out the same stuff every single day, but when you reach the point of not only you're finding new ways to lose, but every single game there are new impressive ways that the Mets are losing, whether it's the fundamentals, where they're not having good defense, like what we saw yesterday between Lindor and Ronnie Mauricio, a whole lot of nothing there, or today, for example, again, just not making the proper decisions. Carlos Mendoza feels like he's always making a decision one batter too late, and I know it's very easy to nitpick Mendy in this situation. He is not the problem as to why Sean Manaea threw roughly 90 pitches in 4 innings. The problem that you could argue is maybe Manaea shouldn't have even started the 5th inning, because then, before you know it, a bomb happens right as Reed Garrett comes in, and that should have been a solo shot becomes a 2-run shot that put them within 2 before they ultimately not only rallied a tie later on Ryan Helsley, but then on Edwin Diaz, but then we would see there in Edwin Diaz give up the walk-off nuke right away, and that's the ball game. We're going to break down the ball game in its entirety here shortly, because I think the context of this ball game is important, but what you guys need to know in summary is that this Mets team, yet again, is continuing to do everything in their power to make us Mets fans lose our minds. And the Mets, when it came to hitting with runners in scoring position, that was the most frustrating thing, because if you look at the stat line, it's not bad. They went 4 for 9 today. We would take that every single single day of the week otherwise, but it doesn't matter on a day like today because the Mets went over, they rolled out, and they died. How did they die? The Brewers, the best team in the game, was the worst thing to possibly happen in this club. The Mets can either use this stretch of losing 11 of their past 12 games for good, or it's going to be their demise for the remainder of the season, and every Mets fan has every rightful reason to be genuinely concerned about that being the case. Is the season over? No. But are we rightfully concerned? Yes. I got a comment on my ex saying, LOL at all the Mets fans freaking out when there's still 40 games left. It is okay to have a short-term reaction, but this is not just a short-term reaction. This is the same exact stuff that we have seen them do for 2 effing months in a row. If you're competent when it comes to your brain function, if you watch the games on a daily basis, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Only a fair-weather schmuck fan would make that kind of comment and not be concerned. You are blind and you're fooling yourself if you are not at least a smidge level of concern with a Mets team that was 21 games above 500 to now just over 1 game up on the Reds for the final wild card spot. Yes, there are ebbs and flows in a 162. Yes, there is so much that can happen from now up until the end of the season. That is why the season is not lost yet. However, the Mets are doing a fantastic thing and fantastic time right now that you guys are seeing, which is them literally losing all ground that they had, that they built and worked hard for throughout the season. And the same woes, the same complaints, and the little things that we've been calling out from David Stearns' roster construction going back to 2+ months is now coming back to further bite them in the ass. What's going to happen? Is it going to be until it's too little too late to finally make some type of organizational change? Whether that's calling up the kids and Sproat and McClain to be utilized in piggyback situations, whether that's firing one of Eric Chavez or Jeremy Barnes, whether that's making a massive shakeup with the lineup and actually making proper in-game adjustments. You know what I think about a lot right now, guys? I think of Carlos Mendoza's quote that he shared a couple days ago when the Mets were starting their downward spiral, and he said the following. He said that when it comes to the Mets, they have been really poor and have not been able to make those proper in-game adjustments. We saw the writing on the wall. We knew exactly how we were being attacked by the opposing pitching, but it simply did not matter. We could not figure them out. Yet again, another game, the Mets had the lead. They're blowing it, and they are making no proper in-game adjustments that we're watching live in real time. That's not only a Mendoza issue, but that's an entire organizational issue right now when you are not seeing guys go out and making proper adjustments. They started the game with adjustments. We saw BnazariNYM put a sack bunt down that actually worked, and the Mets scored a run a second later. Little things that we usually wouldn't see from a guy that's batting the top 3 in your order when, mind you, Nimmo had nothing else to show today because BnazariNYM had himself a piss-poor series, which was the case with many players, including himself in this one. Oh my God, I'm pissed off, and I am sincerely sorry for the lack of structure in our post-game show today. There will be a lack of structure in a post-game show like this one, guys. This one, you take a look at the pitching, step right up and meet the shit show you call the New York Mets. Sean Manaea gives up the total 4 earned runs because we see there the one run which was charged there, to that being Henry Garrett. Then we see Brooks Raley does a job. Brooks Raley was the only reliever that acted like he knew what he was doing today. Tyler Rogers wasn't great, but he had a beautiful double play ball that stranded a runner at third with less than 2 outs. Not going to complain about our guy, the Submariner Rogers, today. Then you look at Ryan Helsley. Ryan Helsley cannot get the job done. I like Helsley a lot. He's throwing the hardest pitch in Mets team history, 104 yesterday. We can't appreciate that velocity, though. His buddy is getting eaten alive. The Brewers know how to play. They're fantastic with their line drive hitting, and they beat up on Helsley for a second consecutive day. Edwin Diaz there in the 9th inning. Maybe if you didn't have to wait since last effing Monday to use Edwin Diaz, he wouldn't have been as rocky that we saw there when he came in this ballgame. You know, just a thought, just something to consider. Then on the offensive end, look at this. Again, it wasn't the worst. It certainly wasn't the worst, but it still wasn't enough. You look at Nimmo, another offer. Lindor, absolutely horrendous. Bad double play balls. Not doing anything to really separate himself defensively right now either. Things you do not want to see. Cedric Mullins, Brett Baty, the bottom of the lap, getting production that you need. Yet there is nothing to show in the win column because the Mets continue to find ways to lose. As we get back now to the main slide here, everybody, thank you so much for the gifted membership. I really do appreciate that in the chat. That gifted went to Gorilla. Thank you for the gifted. Thank you for making that gifted happen. Great member. I really, really do appreciate that. All you guys, thank you kindly for the support. We got another gifted from my guy Greg here. Looks like he gifted Trennan, congratulations on becoming a channel member. Really do appreciate that as well. We got Pat here. Stearns' evaluation and pitching is a joke. I mean, here's the problem. The Mets had injury woes going back 2 months ago. Stearns said, let's not do anything external, even if it's for back-end options. Let's go ahead and stick with our in-house options. The Mets were horrendous in those spot start games. They have, They're 5-11 now this year in that regard, just in case you guys are wondering, right? See how happy I am? Said absolutely nobody. Then you add in the fact that not only were there those rotation woes early, Griffin can't exceed the expectations, then he goes down with the injury. Tyler McGill goes down with the injury. Kodai Senga goes down with the injury. Shabana is still working his way back for a little bit. Montas' batting practice as soon as he basically gets here. And here's another problem that we have when it comes to the pitching, guys, and get ready for this, right? David Stearns in year one with this Mets team didn't do a lot of moves when it came to they were his choices, right, heading into that season. A decent part of the roster were things that were already constructed, as well as to what he built, especially the bullpen. Heading into 2025, the Mets ran it back with a lot of the same players that they had in 2024. But on the rotation front, there's one man in particular that David Stearns was very privy to go out and land early in the offseason. Instead of considering Luis Severino at 2 years at $40 million, $20 mil AAV, they went with Frankie Montas. And I'm not saying that Severino would have been a saving grace, but that was the first true David Stearns pick for a rotation spot with the exception of Clay Holmes. What do we see? Clay Holmes can provide zero length because this is his first year being stretched as a starter. Frankie Montas is providing zero length, and now the Mets are just trying to figure out how can they keep him on the team without actually designating him for assignment. There's no one more bothered right now than David Stearns, I promise you, because these were his decisions. These were his signings, and they're blowing up live in real time. The Mets getting no length, which we called out from the start this year. From the effing start. Oh my, how did this happen? I don't understand. How did we get a 50 games out? Maybe if you're blind and not paying attention, but if you pay attention the way that you're supposed to, David, then you know damn well that at minimum, the Mets should have considered calling up McClain a month and a half ago. At minimum, the Mets should have went ahead and traded for a back-end starter with the uncertainties of Tyler McGill, of Paul Blackburn, of all these usual mid to back-end options as is. We don't know what they're going to provide when they return. Even if they do provide anything, how much of a needle mover is it really going to be? So again, as I've been saying over the past couple days, where is the bar, David Stearns? I'm genuinely curious. Is the bar another week of shit baseball that you're completely out of a playoff spot to say, oh yeah, let's go ahead and make an organizational change? Is the bar as soon as tomorrow and the Mets do something rash on their off day? We're just going to have to wait and see. Is the bar going to be 2 weeks from now? 3 weeks from now? Let's just wait until the season ends and the Mets don't make playoffs. Let's go ahead and do that and then evaluate in the offseason and then, do mediocre moves in the offseason because you're not going to do anything overly drastic. Oh my God. And no, I'm not a Stearns denier, Truman. Let's get something very clear. I am a Mets fan. I am very happy with a lot of what David Stearns has done for this club since he has been here. I do not hate David Stearns at all. What I'm critiquing is the rightful criticisms that we have had for the past couple months. And it is not my fault that we have a president that decide not to listen until it is now too little too late to make certain organizational changes. Even with his philosophies, even with his understanding as to why he made his decisions, it doesn't change the fact that they have not worked. And that is where we have to call it out. The same way I like Carlos Mendoza. I don't hate Mendy. You guys know I don't hate Mendy. But I'll be the first to rip him a new one when I'm really uncomfortable and really unhappy with certain decisions that he makes. The same thing goes for Stearns. Trust me, guys. Believe it or not, you're allowed to be a fan, to have criticisms, while not actually hating the guys entirely, while not beating them down every single chance you get. That's why when things go right, I'm always gassing up Stearns. There is probably no one out here that gasses up Stearns on YouTube more than myself with the decisions that he makes in the offseason and the trade deadline. Like, let's be honest here. Are you really going to go there? You're not, because it's not true. Then you look at Carlos Mendoza. Same exact thing applies. This is a results-oriented business and game. When the results aren't there, and when the results aren't consistently there for as long as it's been now, of course the guy who's been covering the Mets every single day for 5 years is going to go ahead and have some choice words about it. That's normal. That's a reaction. That is part of being a fan. Wardy, the only organizational change the Mets need, let's see right now, is for Stearns to fire himself. That isn't going to happen, and you guys are fooling yourself. I promise you. I know that you guys might not love David Stearns right now, but the Mets would be in far worse position if there was someone else in there. I firmly believe if Billy Epler was a GM running ship right now, we would not be in nearly as great standing. Without David Stearns, I don't think that team gets out of their 11 game below 500 rut last year. Without David Stearns, the Mets don't get as high as they did this year, but now they've reached a low, and I do think that David has absolutely played a factor into that, so that's why we're going to call out these rightful criticisms, right? We got in the chat here. Wardy, I gotta admit, I love your iconic line. Miss me with that nonsense so much. I'm glad you like it. It's not even a purposeful iconic line. It's just because of the fact that literally miss me with that nonsense, which is this entire shit show you call ball club for the past what feels like 2 calendar months now. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. bingo, 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 bingo. It's almost like we've been calling this out for how long now? I am fully aware. Dealing with the fight holla. The only good thing about this weekend is that Gelbs didn't get to call Alonso's record-breaking home run. That's hilarious. Dylan, thank you for the donation. Yeah, I mean, it went from bad to worse. Not only was it poor baseball in Milwaukee when you knew the Mets weren't going to step up there, but then you add the fact that you don't have Gary Keith around, you have Steve Gelbs they have to settle with. That's like going from, oh, guys, we're going to go on a nice shopping spree. We're actually going to go ahead in the hills of Beverly Hills with all the money that we have, and we're going to go ahead on a nice little shopping spree to actually instead, guys, we're going to go to Dollar Tree. We're going to go to Dollar Tree, and you're stuck with the one thing you can get. That's it. That is the gap in comparison when it comes to broadcasting from Gary to Steve. And that is not a personal slight on Steve. It's just my honest opinion about him. He's not a guy that I find myself enjoying listening to the booth. I actually find myself having Howie and or Keith and or Mr. McCarthy there on the broadcast trying to sync up with the radio than I am listening to Steve Gelbs, because I can't do it even when he has Keith or Ron with him. They are not needle movers enough as much as I love them to best the great Gary when he's doing his great calls. But that's enough of the tangent right there. Gelbs is not Dollar Tree. He's not when it comes to his on-field reporting. I 100% agree. He's not there, but when it comes to his broadcasting, I respectfully am not a fan. That's what I'll say about it. I'm not going out of my way to rag on the guy. I'm just being honest in my opinion about him. It's okay to have that. Believe it or not, it's okay to have contrasting opinions, whether people in the Mets community believe it or not. I think some people don't seem to grasp that from time to time. Being a casual fan or even watching Wardy breakdown actually is a comedy show, yeah, that's how you know. Literally, it's insane right now, Scott. It's absolutely insane. And when I tell you that this game was insane, it really was, because we saw the Mets in real time get off to a nice early lead in this ball game and squander it in the most Metsian way possible. You can't even, the fact that Edwin Diaz even gave up that home run, you're not surprised by it, but you're just saying to yourself, when was the last time Edwin Diaz gave up an earned run? Guys, Edwin Diaz has only given up two effing earned runs since April, mid-April this season. He has not given up more than one earned run until today. He just gave up his second. Are you kidding me? Literally every single way that the Mets can find ways to lose, they're losing right now. They continue to lose. So, all right. You know how we just talked about how everything's going wrong with this Mets team? Let's break it down in great detail, because why wouldn't we? Before we do, though, shout out to our amazing sponsors at Moo, the official trading platform of the New York Mets that has you covered there, as always, as well as our great friends there at, yes, SeatGeek that has you covered for all of your ticketing needs. Guys, do not use my SeatGeek promo code for Mets tickets right now. If you do not come crying to me when you say, Wardy, I got your discount, but I still lost $250 between the tickets and the money and the parking just to see the Mets lose 4-1. Buddy, I'm not telling you to go to the ballpark right now, so you shouldn't go ahead and do it. You guys make your decisions. You're inclined to do that, and that's fine. Fans are going to attend the games no matter what, and that's cool. But as someone who also doesn't live right around the block from Citi Field, I am not going out of my way to attend a game right now until they get their shit together. So if you guys want to save some money on NFL tickets with the season right around the corner, I know we got Jets and Giants fans equally hyped up right now. I'm a Steelers fan. I'm feeling good as well. If you are in, say, the hockey space as the season isn't too far away, comedy, concert shows, you name it, everybody, make sure to check out our great friends SeatGeek, because they got over 70,000 active events to choose from. They're the #1 rated ticketing app in the game today for a reason, and their grading scale on their app is so easy to navigate. It goes from 1 to 10, red to green. If you buy a ticket in the red range 1 through 4, I'm sorry to hear that, because you shouldn't have. It's not a good bang for your buck. You should probably get one there in the green range in the 7 through 10 for probably a fraction of that price there. A great deal with our friends at SeatGeek. Utilize our promo code WARDY10 for 10% off your next ticket purchase. Download the app as it's hyperlinked down below, so if you click that link and if you have the app download, bam, it's already going to add 10% off your next ticket purchase. And thank you guys as well for hearing from our great friends at SeatGeek yet again. Let's get into this one, everybody. Let's talk about it. Step right up and meet the effing Mets, and I'm going to lose my effing mind, if I haven't already, halfway through breaking down this ball game. Can you guys see how happy I am today? Oh my God. Juan Soto had me happy early in this ball game, right? Because what did the Juan and only do? He finally did something more than being a Juan Solo. He rips himself an early RBI single to drive in the Mets their first run of the ball game in the first inning. Yes, you heard that correctly. Juan Soto didn't have a solo shot. He hit with runners in scoring position that we saw there, and that gave the Mets the early 1-0 lead. And yeah, I don't even remember the last time that we did the jingle. I think we did the jingle for the one Mets win the Mets had against the Giants, right? You know how long ago that was? You know how long ago that was? Do the Mets even have a win in the month of August yet? If they do, it's just one. It's horrendous. And that is where we're at right now. So, okay, after that Lindor hit by pitch and then he stole his 18th bag of the year, mind you, Soto has 18 stolen bags as well. Both of them are on pace for 20+ stolen bags this year. But at the same time, who cares if you don't even make playoffs, right? Because without getting on a bigger tangent here, because we're breaking down the ball game, Just take a look at the shit show that we call the standings. The Mets are 8 games above 500. They're 1.5 games up on the Cincinnati Reds. The Phillies are comfortably in first right now with roughly 6 games of a lead. The Brewers are the best team in baseball, the best out of the National League especially, and the Dodgers there are the third seed there as the division leaders. The Padres have 2.5 games on the Mets for the wild card. And who wants to go to San Diego for the wild card? Absolutely nobody, mind you. The Chicago Cubs, 5-game lead right now for first there when we look at the wild card. The Mets, in the snap of a finger, went from a ball club that you said to yourself, oh my God, this Mets team is putting themselves in great standing. It's not a matter of if they're going to win 90 games, but could they win closer to 100? Guys, if the Mets win 100 games this year, I will give away 3 jerseys on the platform, all right? Easily. In the snap of a finger, I will give away 3 legit Mets jerseys on the platform. You can screenshot this, you can record it, do whatever the hell you want. The Mets win 100 effing games this year, I will be beyond shell-shocked. Not a chance in all that happens. We'll be grateful if we can even get to 90 wins at this point, because the Mets need a record well above 500 to secure 90 wins for the rest of the season here on out. As we hop back in this one, Jonah with the $5 holla. This team is playing lifeless, unfocused, and afraid. Nemo and Lindor have forgotten who the hell they are, and Pete has just collapsed. Pete, I'm not going to give as much of a flack for because he's actually been relatively productive versus the others, but I understand the frustration with the collective of that Fab Four that Steve Cohen loves to label them, because that Fab Four hasn't been doing all that much outside of shit for what feels like a good stretch of time, right? You look at the offense today, Jeff McHits yet again. Ronnie, Beatty, Mullins, guys more in your 5 through 9 in your order. That was important to see. And as we get into this, the Mets were initially up early 1-0. Soto stole his 18th bag of the year. Then we saw Nimmo on with a walk. Alonso with a bad double play ball, but Jeff McHit steps up with 2 outs. That gave the Mets the initial 2-0 lead. We then get folks through the first because it's a nice clean inning there that we would see initially, at least, for Sean Manaea. He gives up a 2-out double to Isaac Collins, but that's all she wrote. And the second then, Brett Beatty with an absolute bomb, a roughly 415-foot bomb, is 12th of the year there for Beatty that put the Mets up initially 3-0. As I said, Beatty, color me shocked, with all the pressure now laying on him, as we know there's been a lot of rumblings if the Mets should call up Luis Angel Acuna, who was a last-minute scratch today. He was supposed to start there for AAA Syracuse. It didn't happen. You have to wonder if there's going to be a corresponding move there between Beatty and now Acuna. But on the same day where that happens, we see Brett the Hitman go more like Brett Bonds Beatty with a no-doubter of a home run to put the Mets up by 3. Afterwards, Lindor strikes out. Soto grounds out. Yippee-doo. Oh my God, I can't even talk right now. We would then see, guys, a half inning later, nothing happens outside of a walk for Danny Jansen. And the third, we would see Pete Alonso rip his 28th double of the year, and then Ronnie Mauricio would go ahead and drive him in. Ronnie there with a single that gets stuck between first and second, but that was actually a strategic move by Ronnie to a degree to make sure that Alonso would get there safely at home without a problem. Ronnie, though, is out, but not before the Mets take that 4-0 lead. So, okay, Mets are up 4. You know that this game could quickly turn on its head, but they're up 4 right now. So you're saying, okay, I'm cautiously optimistic. Very cautiously optimistic. Then to begin the 4th inning, Cedric Mullins does something he has not done at all this season, even during all his time there with the Baltimore Orioles, and that is to hit an opposite field home run. Mullins goes oppo for his 16th bomb of the year, and I gotta say, it's hilarious that Mullins hits his first home run of the year when the Mets' greatest statistic as to why they've had offensive lows this year is because, unlike all the other top teams in the offensive numbers, they are the only team that is averaging to go more opposite field in their certain numbers. And I find that hilarious that on the same time that Cedric Mullins is now a Met, his first bomb is oppo, because you have to wonder, has Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes been in his ear at all in regards to that? Not a lot of guys can go opposite field for power, and that is not a recipe for success. Outside of Soto, outside of Lindor at times, and outside of Alonso, there's no one else that can consistently hit for power opposite field in this team, so we need to deviate from the mentality that the Mets should go ahead and continue to work in that manner. Mets are up 5-0 after the Cedric Mullins home run, everybody. So again, Seti makes it 5-0. You're feeling good about that. Then we head to the bottom of the 4th, where we'd see it become a 5-1 ball game. William Contreras, who hit a bomb against the Mets just a day ago, hits another one. This time it's his 11th of the year, and it makes it a 4-run lead there still for the Mets. Then we see a Danny Jansen double, his 9th of the season, and then a Joey Ortiz single after a Brandon Lockwood walk, because again, Sean Manaea had a brutal inning that we saw there in the 4th. It would become a 2-run ball game as Joey Ortiz just pokes himself a single there to get to Nimmo. That makes it 5-3, and that does it for the inning. But not before now. We were initially up 4, now we're only up by 2. Sean Manaea would go ahead and actually start the next inning, but before 4 there, we would see Juan Soto lead things off with a single. The Polar Bear and Pete Alonso with his 29th double of the year that just drops a big bounce, stays fair on the first base side. That gives the Mets a 6-3 lead. So right after the Mets give up some runs, they get a run back. They add some much needed insurance, but they're only up by 3. They don't have as sizable of a lead or as comfortable of a lead that you're hoping as a fan. If you guys haven't done already, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe on your way, and I greatly appreciate that. To our roughly 800 concurrent viewers right now, if half of you guys could hit that like and subscribe on to help us get a 300 plus likes by the end of the live show, it would be greatly appreciated. And help us get a 25,000 subscribers, guys. We're giving away a Mets jersey once we hit that, the same way we give away a jersey after we hit every new 1,000 subscriber milestone here on the platform. So all my members watching live on a replay as well, I apologize if I'm not getting you guys individually yet. We have a lot of people in the chat. It's a shit show to cover, let alone talk about, let alone watch this ball club right now. I'm doing the absolute best I can to not only battle my own emotions, answering your comments, and breaking down the ball game all in one. Wardy's doing his best here, while the Mets are certainly doing anything but. As we continue on here, it's a 6-3 Mets lead. McNeil gets on with a McWalk, and that does it for the inning. In the bottom of the 5th then, William Contreras comes in after Isaac Collins rips a leadoff single off of Sean Manaea. So Manaea, who you could have argued should not have started this inning at north of 90 pitches, then gives up a leadoff single. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to go ahead and fault too much on Carlos Mendoza here. I know Manaea did not look good the past inning, but you're trying to get some type of length when you know just how depleted this team has been, because they've gotten zero length outside of David Peterson. I'm not going to sit here and say that Mendoza was at massive fault for that decision, because he wasn't. Who's at fault for giving up the ball here? It's Reed effing Garrett. But here's the thing. Maybe if Reed Garrett didn't have to be utilized in a nonsensical spot start yesterday, he could have A, been utilized in the 7th inning instead of Ryan Stanek, in which Stanek was a shit show. Then Helsley wasn't any better. And then you add in today, you need Reed Garrett in a high leverage spot, mind you. And just like that, it goes from being 6-3 to let's go ahead and make it 6-5. Right away, the first batter Reed Garrett faces as the hottest hitter in this line for the Brewers home run wise. We would see William Contreras rip his 12th home run of the year. It is a 1-run effing ball game in the snap of a finger. And at that point, guys, we were all expecting the same. The Mets are not winning this ball game. Was there any Mets fan that genuinely felt, I have to ask you, that genuinely felt that the Mets were going to go ahead and still win this ball game when it became a 1-run ball game? I'm really surprised if you fall in that category, as I myself don't. And that isn't because I don't love the Mets. It's the reality of watching and covering them every single day to know when they're going to roll over and die. And today was yet the prime and latest example of exactly that, because they become 6-5 Brewers. Then we see the Mets do nothing to 6. Then we see the bottom of 6. Thankfully, the Mets have themselves a clean inning. Why? Because Brooks Riley's an effing dog. That is why. In the 7th inning, we see the Mets do nothing offensively yet again. In the bottom of the 7th, Tyler Rogers gets out of his own mess. There's a runner at third, less than 2 outs, and he gets a massive double play ball to end that inning unscathed. We find ourselves then in the 8th inning. What do the Mets do? A whole lot of nothing offensively. They go down in order. Back-to-back strikeouts for Mauricio and Mullins, and then Beatty grounds out. In the bottom of the 8th inning, then what do we see, everybody? The shit show is what we see, okay? Bryce Terrain gets on with a walk, mind you, and this is Ryan Helsley. Then we see a fly out for Sal Frelick. Then we see a Danny Jansen 1-out single. You got 2 on there, and then we see Lockridge strikes out. All the Mets need is one final effing out in this inning, and instead, Ryan Helsley gives up the game-tying effing single there that we would see to Joey Ortiz that makes it 6-6. So after Ryan Helsley cannot get out of his own mess for his 2nd consecutive day, Edwin Diaz comes in, and Sugar's looking a little erratic. A wild pitch advances both runners right away on the base pass, and then we see Anthony Seigler line out there to Alonso that keeps it at 6-6 ball game. But oh my God, did it feel like that the Brewers were going to go ahead and open the floodgates right then and there. It didn't take them long. As soon as they got their first opportunity in the bottom of the 9th, that was ball game, because the Mets, as expected, did nothing in the top of the 9th. And mind you, that is when they had who was batting? Oh yeah, they had guys like Francisco Alvarez, Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, who got the 2-out walk treatment, and Brandon Nimmo. Nothing from the top guys there. Then the bottom of the 9th, right away, Edwin Diaz throws to Isaac Collins, his 8th home run of the year, and the Brewers go on and win this one in a dramatic final score of 7-6. And mind you, that slider that was thrown by Edwin Diaz, dog shit. Love Edwin to death. This is not me to rag on him entirely. This is just speaking the fact of the matter. Was that, was it meatball or was it a good pitch? It was not a good pitch. It was a slider, middle, slightly in, Perfectly pulled there by Mr. Collins, and that does it for the ball game. So guys, when I tell you I'm frustrated, it's an understatement. When I tell you I'm exhausted, that too is an understatement. And I get it that we aren't playing these games, but I feel like I'm playing these games right now. My body is beat up. I'm mentally worn, and I still have all my day-to-day life that I have to deal with being a dad, as well as all the other work that I'm doing outside of covering the Mets game for you guys. So trust me when I tell you I'm not happy to be having this conversation right now, but we have to have this conversation right now because the Mets, as I've been saying from the start of the show until we finish here, they continue to find new, impressive, and horrendous ways to lose. The Mets runners in scoring position, again, were 4 for 9 in this ballgame. They left 6 on base there. When we look at the hitting end there, this is what you have on the offensive end for the Mets now, everybody. Lindor's at a 243 average, 735 OPS. Soto, 251 average, 876 OPS. Nimmo, 249 average, 753 OPS. You got to move Nimmo lower in the order right now. He looks like a shell of himself. He really does. Alonso, 264 average, 861 OPS. And here's the thing. There's nothing to justify not to move guys around when the Mets have been this bad. There is nothing. There's not one effing statistic out there for Carlos Mendoza to look at and say, hey, we got to keep the lineup as is. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. So miss me with the nonsense that, oh, okay, we should go ahead and turn out and throw out the same laps every single day. No, you shouldn't, because it isn't working. I understand the Mets had 6 runs today. The offense wasn't the sole problem, clearly. However, what did they not do when it came after the 5th inning? And that was by putting an effing ball in play. That's what they didn't do. As we advance here, Alonso, 264 average, 861 OPS. McNeil, 254 average, 785 OPS. McNeil's been consistently good. I'm not ragging on Jeff. I usually do it a lot. I got little to complain about this year. Jeff has been more than fine. Mauricio, 234 average, 709 OPS. Solid day for Roddy, even though he was absolutely bested batting from the right side. He just doesn't look good as a right-hand batter, and I want him to take the Cedric Mullins route. And for those that don't know what that is, Cedric Mullins a couple years ago, I believe it was 2021, stopped becoming a switch hitter. He was a switch hitter for the start of his career. Then he started batting just from the left side, and he had a breakout season, I believe, in 2021, if not 2022, for the Orioles. Ronnie Mauricio has so much potential, and not to say that he can't get better from the right side. I really think he's going to bode best, though, as a full-time lefty batter. I think that's where he inevitably will fall in. So should and when that happens, I'm calling it right now. I've been saying this literally for the past calendar year. Ronnie there, 2 for 4, and that's that. Mullins with the bomb, 225 average, 728 OPS. Beatty with the bomb, 228 average, 696 OPS. Terrence, who started the ball game with a single, 216 average, 587 OPS. Alvarez, who just came in, had 1 at-bat, 242 average, 703 OPS. That's the shit show we call the Mets, everybody. Now dropping 11 of their past 12 games. On the pitching end, oh my God, well, what would I grade Shamanaya giving up 4 earned runs in 4 innings? Regardless of the fact that he didn't give up the Reed Garrett bomb, he couldn't get out of his own mess. He had a terrible 4th inning there that we saw for Shamanaya. Shamanaya gets a 3 out of 10 from your guy Wardy today. I was not impressed at all with Sean. His first inning looked good, but everything beyond that, I wasn't overly inspired. I really wasn't. Minaya did not have the stuff that I was hoping that he would have today. Brooks Raley, I love you. When in doubt, Raley out. He's the only Mets reliever right now that isn't giving up runs. And Raley has now pitched 8.2 scroll sittings for the Mets this year, just like he pitched, 12 scrolls in his rehab. Buddy is a dog, and I hope he comes back next season. The Mets need to make sure Raley's back here next year. I think he is contract-wise, which is good, but regardless, make sure Brooks Raley returns. Tyler Rogers got out of his own mess. That's a dog. That's what you need from a guy who doesn't have his best stuff today. Ryan Helsley, I don't give a shit if Ryan Helsley is throwing 94, 84, or 104. The velocity means nothing when you're not having the results. Edwin Diaz, I can only rag on Edwin so much. That was his 2nd earned run allowed since mid-April. The problem is that earned run that he allowed could not have came at a worse time for this team. The Mets are collectively coming together to find the worst ways to lose, and we're watching every single day right before our very eyes. Pat with the 2-ha. So why did Buck get canned? Buck got canned for a multitude of reasons. It was also because him and Billy Epler didn't have as strong of a relationship as you initially thought. There were a lot of conflicting issues, actually, as a matter of fact, where Billy Epler, trying to save face as the Mets GM, wanted Daniel Vogelbach to get consistent starts in DH. Buck Showalter had pushback and did not want Vogue in there as consistently. Same thing when it came to wanting to have Mark Vientos get more playing time. Who was an actual advocate for that, from my understanding? It was Buck Showalter. So, in case you guys were wondering, when we think about the DH debates over the years, when it didn't go well under Epler, among other things, that has a lot to do with the guy trying to save face when he knew that he didn't have a lock of a GM role beyond, say, 1 full season with the Mets, just like what we saw in Zach Scott. And now what we're seeing with David Stearns, while I don't see David getting fired this year, even if the Mets miss playoffs, David's going to try to save face with his signings when they're not performing well. And they're going to give enough benefit of the doubt to guys until it's too little too late. And that's what the Mets have found themselves doing to a degree here, with that being in Frankie Montas. Get to your donation, Jeremy, just because you asked nicely. My daughter has to grow up a Mets fan. Does this make me a deadbeat father? I mean, my son is named Shea, S-H-E-A, and he's going to be a Mets fan. He already is. So, like, listen, we're dragging them along with us, right? And I guess if there's any counter to say, before your kids go out and put the blame on you, say, listen, this was grandfathered in, okay? I did not accept this. I did not ask for this either. My actual father is the reason why I'm a Mets fan. My father is from Corona, Queens. You guys know the famous lemon ice stand there in Corona. My dad worked there back in the day, and actually the guy who owns it now, who grew up really good friends with, and they worked there together for quite a while before he moved on to other things, my father that being. So I did not ask to become a Mets fan. It was bestowed on me without asking. And if you are a true sports fan, and I know some people prioritize mental health, and I commend them for that, but if you're a true sicko of a sports fan the way that I am, and the way the thousands of you guys watching live on a replay are, you do not jump from one fan base to another. Even when your team is shit, you usually don't do it. You might hop on a bandwagon for fun for a short time, but you're still a diehard fan of that other team, whatever that team is going to be. So that's what I have to say about that. No, I'm not going to tell you to not make your kids Mets fans, make your decisions, but understand that when they have themselves the same complaints, when they have themselves the frustration, the heartache, potentially having to seek therapy, the way that I feel like we all have to half the time, know that is in direct hand because of the continuation of being a fan. Jeremy with the $5 holla, thank you for that. Pat, thank you so much again for the donation. I appreciate that as well, guys. Let's continue on the show here, everybody. As you guys are watching live on a replay, let me know all your thoughts. Do not hold back, everybody, and hit your like and subscribe on your way in here with what you have to say. And David, see, you guys know it. You guys know exactly how I feel. Trust me, you think that there are sports fans out there that willingly woke up and are like, I'm going to be a Jets fan, a Nets fan, and a Mets fan, kicking their feet? No one. No one. And if you are in that category, then I'm so sorry to hear that, because you know damn well that you don't know what success is. And that's not a joke. That's a fact, right? I don't know what winning is as a fan. For those that are wondering, I'm a Mets fan for baseball. My first year locking on the Mets fully locked in, where I was not missing a beat, the Mets lost the World Series in 2015. Before that, I was a Mets fan, but I was more of a casual baseball fan. I wouldn't watch every single game. It would be when I'd be in the mood every week and stuff like that. Then you add in, okay, I am a hockey fan. I'm a New York Rangers fan. My first year of watching the Rangers through and through as a 12-year-old, 11-12, saw them lose to Adam Henrique in overtime, and I know my Devils fans love to hear this. That's why I'm going to bring up you losing in 5 to the Canes in the Stanley Cup right after that we saw in 2012. So I only know heartache, right? Then I think of, okay, my Steelers fandom, right? I'm a Steelers fan. Back when I was 8 turning 9, the Steelers won the Super Bowl against the Cardinals. That was electric, but I was only 8 turning 9, and I really couldn't appreciate that for what it was, because I wasn't a diehard football fan. My first year of watching the NFL every single day and locked in on my Pittsburgh Steelers. What happens? They beat the Jets in the AFC Championship. I know you're still upset about that, Jets fans. I'm sorry. Mark Sanchez, love him. Then you get into the Super Bowl. Who loses the Super Bowl? The Steelers. Who did we lose to? Aaron Rodgers. Who's now the Steelers quarterback? Aaron Rodgers. There's no more full circle moment than that for me, as someone who despised Aaron for all those years in direct hand because of exactly that. All I know is pain when it comes to my teams. So I'm in the exact same category as every single one of you when it comes to that. We don't enjoy this. We don't ask for this, but it's bestowed upon us a lot of times because we don't have say. This is just how it is when it's passed down from family, among others. As we go in here, we got Showtime Mike with a $5 holla. Stearns is good. I like the stability, but he's so analytical and conservative. It really comes to a fault show at every single game. Trust the eye test. Thank you. And this is where, again, you can like David Stearns while also understanding that Buddy isn't perfect, while also understanding that he's flawed, while also understanding the mistakes that he himself finds himself making live in real time. That is as valid and as level-headed of a take as they come. I wholeheartedly agree. I like Stearns. There's a lot of things I like about David. I really like his player evaluation to a degree, but he's still flawed. And we're also seeing to a degree where what he learned in Milwaukee can't necessarily transfer over to have that same success with the level of media pressure that you get in New York. This pressure weighs so heavy on the players. If you think it doesn't, I have a bridge to sell you. I know in real time that a lot of the players keep up to date on what people say about them and report about them on a daily basis. I also know in real time that when it comes to this team, when it comes to how they need to get right now, there is no immediate solution outside of what I've been proposing with party ways with one of the hitting coaches, with calling up the kids on the pitching end. There are not nearly enough, in my opinion, to say, hey, this team will get right, other than the team going out and just proving it themselves. That's what they have to do. It's down to the guys pay the big bucks. It's down to the guys that are actually on this effing roster that need to make a statement. And right now, what are they doing? Not making a statement. They're rolling over and dying. Hold on, guys. I'm just trying to focus my camera here real quick. It likes to get a little out of focus sometimes when I get more hot-headed than usual. Where's Cohen? I know I've been saying that. And listen, I'm not expecting Steve to go out like, as if he's, the Pope you know, from looking up and he's at the Vatican or something and he's waving at everybody or, you know, having his speech be heard. But I'm expecting something from Steve, you know, in the public eye. And the fact that that hasn't happened yet either has me thinking that Steve equally doesn't know what the hell to do. Genuinely, and I know he doesn't know what the hell to do, because if he did know, then he wouldn't hire a president to go ahead and run the team, right? He's the owner, he's the fan, he's just entrusting the guys that are here to try to make this team right. The problem is, the guys that are trying to make this team right now aren't making them right enough. Clearly, we're watching so much of the same exact woes, so much of the same problems that have plagued this team, which is exactly why we've been relaying the numbers. The Mets have the third to last record in Major League Baseball since June 13th. And I saw something earlier from Evan Roberts I actually completely disagreed on. Evan went back and said, if you look back really since the end of April, the Mets have been a couple games below 500, but that's missing very important context where the Mets actually had good stretches of baseball that we saw to a degree there in the month of May, as well as their little spurts that they've had since then. Since June is where the collapse has truly begun for this team. It was a June swoon through and through. And since that June swoon has happened, they have had no clue on how to properly combat it. Mega Mad says, what a shit show. I mean, no truer words have been said than right here, right now that we're watching in the chat, guys. Of course we have closet Mets fans and trolls in the comment section. This is their time to shine. These same schmucks aren't here when the Mets win. These schmucks aren't here when the Mets do anything of significance. If this is a World Series for anybody, it's for Frank the Tank. Because Frank is getting so much money and so much viewership from screaming his effing head off, which he schedules to do before every single game on you. And I know that he's emotionally unstable. Like, Buddy actually has a problem. I'm well aware of that. But he also knows he profits on the fact of the team not performing well. I know I profit on the team not performing well. But the difference is, none of this is an act. This is not me just acting animated for the sake of being animated. This is genuinely how I feel and how I'm voicing it. That's why when things go right, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I'm like, oh my God, we might just win the dance. We might go ahead and do it, because I still am blinded to a degree by the reality of being a Mets fan, where even when you think that things are going to go right, in the end, they find themselves not doing that. But this is what frustrates me a lot as well, and this is what I have to say, then we're going to continue off the live show, guys. There are some people out there that genuinely think, and I've seen this in the comments, that think that this is an act on my end. Like, none of this is an act. I watch in real time. Frank, however, know that when the Mets win, he can't really have the reaction that he wants to in his videos. There's a bit of a difference there. For myself, yes, do I know that I have to play up to the fact that I'm in front of a camera and talking to hundreds, if not then thousands of people? For sure. But at the same time, this is my way of venting. This is my way of getting getting off steam that I can't get with anyone else in my family. My girl doesn't want to hear me rant about the team every single day. My parents are tired of it. My family, everyone else that's in my immediate circle, friends, you name it, I can only do this so much with. So if I'm going to act like a sicko, if I'm going to cover the team the way that I know I'm going to be locked in with them regardless, I might as well go ahead and do that with thousands of other fans that can relate with me on a daily basis. So that is why I am the way that I am. That is why I do what I do, and that is why I'm still humbled and grateful to be covering this team for a living. But my God, when they play this bad for 2 weeks straight, there's no one that wants to jump off the cliff more than yours truly right now when they are really as bad as what they are. So again, guys, do not hold back. Continue to let me know all your thoughts in live chat and the comments down below. The latest deflating Mets series defeat here by a final score of 7-6. We are going to be cutting things off here shortly for our replay viewers, but before I go ahead and do that, I'm going to double check here to make sure that I have all my other ducks in a row. So give me 1 second as I go ahead and do exactly that, everybody. I'm going to pull this up right now. I got to pull this up, then we're going to pull that up, then we're going to pull this up, then we're going to pull that up. I'm just making sure that I don't miss anything that needs to be stated, guys. So just hold on 1 second. Well, I want to throw up. Like, I genuinely want to throw up is how I feel right now. That's how you know I'm pissed off. You know it's bad when you know when your stomach like starts to churn. You know when you're so upset about something, so disgruntled that like your body's starting to break down on you. We're kind of reaching that. We really are kind of reaching that, in my honest opinion. At least for me. And I'm not happy to say that. I'm just making sure that there's no important statistic that needs to be relayed. Not that there should be anything important regarding the Mets right now. It's just a lot of bad. McClain is where are they? I mean, McClain just pitched 4 solid innings today on, I think, 75 pitches because he's on a little bit of a pitch limit now. I don't know. Maybe that would have been nice that the Mets could have considered as a piggyback option for even a Sean Manaea today if he was on the club. But no, that doesn't happen because, unfortunately, the reality is that, again, the Mets are not going to make these moves until it's either too little too late or until we've already been screaming, kicking, and crying for the past 2 months to actually get it done. Oh, here's fun prospect news. At least we have a little positive before we cut things off for replay viewers. Guys, you guys know AJ Ewing? AJ Ewing, who's been one of the best Mets minor league hitters of the year this year. So many teams want him at the trade deadline, but he steals bags like no tomorrow. A really, really good multi-tool athlete. AJ Ewing was just called up to the Rumble Ponies. So congratulations to AJ. That's fantastic news. He's getting closer to getting to the major league level. Him now paired with Carson Bench, Jacob Reimer, a lot of other big hitters there at the AA level. Love to see that for him. So I just want to go on that little quick tangent because that is cool to see. AJ has been having a tremendous season in the minor leagues for the Mets right now. Has quickly high rise to being a Mets top 10 prospect this season. This is all that we're getting right now in regards to the Mets. I'm trying to find an X. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. If you guys know, I'm not going to show it on screen because it's probably taking things too far, but there was an old, I want to say it was an SNL skit. It was on, I don't know if it was on CBS, ABC, something along the mainstream networks from like 20 years ago, but there was a skit of Mr. Met that always pops up my timeline when the Mets play this bad, and it's as follows. It's Mr. Met trying different ways to part ways with himself. It would be him trying to stick his head in an oven that doesn't fit. It would be him trying to, find himself on a light fixture and trying to do something that, you guys can put two and two together what that would be. Doesn't work. Trying to throw himself in the washing machine doesn't work. It's hilarious, but I'm not going to show that for obvious reasons. But that's where we're at right now. That, like, we all feel like that Mr. Met skit. If you know, you know. So that is what I have for everybody. To our live viewers, we're going to continue on the live show now. So continue to hit that like and subscribe on your way in. To everyone watching on replay, please hit that like and subscribe on your way out. Let me know your biggest takeaway, your level of frustration, everything in between regarding this Mets team. And this is your guy, Wardy, signing out. Mets fans, let's continue the live show. Replay viewers, this is where we're cutting things off.